Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. My name is Wack, today is August 6th, and today's episode is going to cover some really interesting news. We have potential news of Consensys staking with Rocket Pool. Let's find out what's going on with that. We've also got updates from Langers about the Val and Samus tokenomics proposal and his feedback on those, and we're going to be talking about Rocket Lend, the Ronin bridge, and a whole lot more. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
So the first news we're going to start with today is this stake that came in for around 65,000 RPL, and this is from a new validator, a new node, and they've just staked their RPL to add validators to this. Now, the thing that's really interesting to see is that this address is consensysmesh.eth. So it's like, who's consensysmesh.eth? Is this Consensys? What's going on over here? And it's definitely piqued a lot of interest in the community. Jasper was very quick to put out this tweet thread. This tweet. It says, "Ew, word RPL, hey Consensys Mesh," and then there's a screenshot of the stake coming through, and I said, let's get married. Marriage is for everyone. And of course, the idea being that there's this word going around that the team are going to get married to Consensys. And could this be part of that? Well, we don't know. That's the truth of it. The idea was that, if it was going to be a marriage, then it would be the team's RPL that would be getting married to Consensys' ETH. However, this looks like the sender address of the RPL was Consensys Mesh. Now, who is Consensys Mesh? ENS is permissionless. Anyone can have whatever the address they want. You can have blackrock.eth, like BlackRock loves rocketpool.eth, whatever, staking, hundreds of validators. That doesn't mean it's actually BlackRock staking the ETH, that's not what it means. Anyone can use ENS, but there's some very interesting things here, like Lee says, so we don't have to fix the tokenomics anymore, we're good. And people are saying, yeah, we're good, everything's solved, we did it. Pateris was pointing out the Consensys mesh.eth thing. I think, where did they get their RPL from? Is this the first whale marriage that was promised? So first of all, if this was the first whale marriage, that's actually kind of disappointing, sadly, because 65,000 RPL is not that much in the grand scheme of things. It will only allow around 100 validators, I think, which isn't that much. Now, they're still good, that we're getting these node operators taking a lot of RPL. That's definitely great, but like when I think of these big marriages, I'm thinking of hundreds of thousands of RPL, maybe even up to 1 million RPL. That would be really special. But here, there was a lot of discussion going on and a lot of ideas about what it might be. Jasper actually did some digging, and he found out that Consensys Mesh was actually mentioned once before by Dave in trading once upon a time. He says it doesn't look like it was only for Consensys Mesh members. So this is Consensys and their partners. So this is a little bit of information about who Consensys Mesh is. In Jasper's tweet, he actually tagged Consensys Mesh. So let's have a look and see what we find up over there. And it says, we invest, incubate, and accelerate via Tachyon XYZ in Web3. And they've got 6,400 followers, but they don't post that much. I guess the last one was a job alert in July, and a couple of retweets here and there. But it seems like they are connected to Consensys, but I don't know too much about them. So I'm sure people will dig into this address to find out where the RPL came from. I'm sure people will try to figure out more about this story very soon. And as soon as I know anything, of course, I will let you all know also. Okay, so something that I've been waiting for a while is feedback from Langers about the Val and Samus tokenomics update, and we actually got it 7 days ago, but no one submitted it to Rocket Fuel, and I missed it on the forum as well, so I'm sorry that I didn't share it all with you all. I know that I was expecting it last week, and I think I mentioned it on Rocket Fuel as well, but then a few days ago Langers said that he was off sick, so I guess in my mind I thought that maybe he was he just didn't do it yet, but he had already done it. So thank you to Thomas who actually submitted this after sharing some information about it. But let's dig into it and let's see what Langus says. It's actually really interesting. So he says, I want to be consistent with my feedback. I've done it for others, so I'm going to do it again. And he's going to cover 4 areas. That's competition, TVL, principles, and RPL value. So with the competition, he says that the proposal lowers the ETH bond from 8 ETH to 4 ETH and then later to 1.5 ETH. He says additionally enables ETH-only node staking by making RPL staking optional. The 14% commission paid by our ETH holders is separated into 3 streams, one for node operators, one for RPL node stakers, and one for RPL value capture. Langus goes on to say the proposal enables competition with solo staking and Lido CSM by reducing the ETH bond and supporting ETH-only staking. The node operator commission rate would be key to competing with an ETH on an ETH return basis. A node operator commission of 6.5% would be enough to compete with Lido CSM directly. The proposal also supports adapting the commission rate to the competitive landscape or RETH demand over time, although I have to admit to having strong concerns over implementing short-term window demand commission changes. And we've covered this discussion in Rocket Fuel before, where Langus has kind of brought those points forward. And then with the TVL, Langus says the proposal will certainly increase Rocket Pool's TVL by reducing the will certainly increase Rocket Pool's TVL by reducing the ETH bond we access further node operator supply, lowering the barrier to entry for more home stakers. Anecdotally, RPL has been seen as a blocker for potential node operators. By having the ETH-only option, the proposal widens the spectrum of potential node operators, encompassing operators that are adverse to holding RPL, a relatively volatile token. Yeah, definitely that. Langus goes on to say, Rocket Pool currently has an issue where if RPL's price drops, node operator returns are adversely affected, particularly when under the 10% bond requirement and RPL rewards stop. To maintain productive RPL, a node operator may choose to withdraw their ETH, thus affecting TVL. The proposal removes this effect by having no minimum RPL bond requirement. Node operators can avoid RPL volatility by staking ETH only, or they can stake RPL and access higher commissions. Then with the principles, he says it's been raised that by not requiring RPL as a collateral, we are removing the disincentive for large corporations to use Rocket Pool, and so our validator set will become more centralized. I do think it's a valid concern, but RPL doesn't make us immune from this outcome. There will always be a power law of stake in Rocket Pool and Ethereum itself. What makes us decentralized is lowering the barrier to entry so that we are accessible to home stakers. A long tail of home stakers ensures that Ethereum stays open, permissionless, and credibly neutral. And then Langus goes on to say, what is also important is governance capture with a minimum RPL collateral requirement. A large node operator would by default capture governance. By decoupling RPL as collateral, we lessen the risk of governance capture, which I think is a very interesting point. With RPL value here, Langus says this proposal completely removes the RPL collateral requirement from the protocol. The RPL requirement has been part of the tokenomics since launch, and so this is a substantial risk. RPL remains a governance token. It says removing the RPL requirement without mitigating the risk would be extremely detrimental to RPL's value proposition. So then the proposal, he says, aims to mitigate this risk by replacing RPL rewards with ETH commission rewards, reducing RPL inflation from 5% to 1.5%, and potentially introducing an RPL burn deflation or RPL liquidity providing buy pressure mechanism. And he says, in the additional ETH commission you receive as a node operator for staking RPL depends on Rocket Pool's TVL as more revenue from our ETH holders and how much RPL is staked overall, proportional share. As Rocket Pool's TVL increases due to the reduced bond and ETH only, it increases the carrying capacity for RPL staking. Essentially, it becomes lucrative to stake RPL compared to staking ETH. When Rocket Pool's TVL inevitably flattens or reaches our self-limit, it's likely the RPL stake will reach an equilibrium. This dynamic should ensure that the RPL value proposition is still aligned with Rocket Pool's success. Although this approach looks good in the long term, there are short-term risks to RPL value. To migrate to mega pools, node operators will have to exit their ETH and RPL and re-enter. So this is the churn that we're going to have to go through. This is currently you have 10 million RPL staked with the protocol. 6.5 million RPL is effectively staked at more than 10% and less than 150%. Around 1/3 of our node operators are under the 10% collateral minimum. there's a substantial risk that node operators will withdraw their RPL and rebalance because RPL is no longer mandatory collateral. The incentive to restake RPL needs to be high enough that we can retain as much RPL as possible. The sharp increase in Megapool TVL due to Saturn launch should provide enough carrying capacity to ensure an incentive to restake RPL, but some loss of RPL stake is likely. I have conducted my own modeling on this, but I feel it's an important aspect to get right to limit the short-term risk to RPL value. And then he goes on to say, RPL burn is interesting because it may offset inflation and mean that liquidity providers are more profitable, leading to a more efficient market. Then RPL liquidity providing again needs to hopefully the same efficient market results as it provides steady buy pressure. In conclusion, he says, I believe this proposal does a good job of hitting the product goals, but the devil is in the detail. There are parameters and policies that will influence how effective the proposal is. So this is actually really cool. So thank you, Langas, for providing that detailed feedback. I'll let you all go through it yourselves, but I think it's quite supportive of the Val and Samus tokenomics, at least more so than I've seen from Langas' comments about Evan's proposal and 1KX's proposal. So, with that in mind, and with the fact that the community seems to be working towards approving this, like if you have a look at the sentiment poll, the numbers are just astonishing. Here we have 119 votes. Of those, 117 are in favor and only 2 are undecided. I actually just saw this post from Thomas that I hadn't seen before. Let me see what Thomas says. Let me share that with you all. So Thomas says, this is really well developed and I support the protocol change described in RPIT 49. Looking forward to the vote. This is a great step forward for Rocket Pool's DAO governance too. So that's actually really amazing that Thomas is supportive of this. Of course, you have to remember that Thomas is a very significant voting member. Thomas, of course, also is one of the largest node operators in Rocket Pool. So for Thomas to be supportive of this, I think sends a really strong signal to the wider community that, this is going to be really good for our smaller node operators, but it's also going to be really good for our bigger node operators as well. And I think that's really awesome to see. I don't know if Thomas was replying just for the PWAP, but maybe he was, like a lot of other people did. So I think this is some really cool stuff here, and I'm really excited to get the whole community voting on this. And it looks like actually we've got some news here about the vote. So Samus says that pull requests, replying here to Val's comment about pull request 274, and that looks good to me. So Valdo says that. So Samus says, I'm going to go ahead and merge the pull requests into the RPIPs, and then the sentiment poll has been live for 14 days, which is the deadline according to the governance RPIP that we have. And then he says, I think I'll just need feedback from Evan and 1KX on vote text, and then I'll ask Langas to post. So it looks like our first vote is going to be the RPIT 49 potentially. So here we have vote text. So this is from yesterday evening, overnight. RPIT 49 vote, economic tokenomics reworks text set, and then you can have a look at the Google Doc here. I'm not going to click on the Google Doc because I want to keep this as we're gonna go through it when it goes live to vote very soon, hopefully. But everyone's really excited about it here. So we're just waiting for Evan and Mike to give their feedback, and then we will find out when this is going to vote and how it's going to look. Okay, next we have an update from Ramana about Rocket Lend and the audits for that. So for those of you who know, Rocket Lend is a GMC paid for product that is going to hopefully set up a borrowing station for RPL, so node operators can borrow it. I think it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited about seeing it work. But here Ramana says that they're working on getting the audits arranged right now, and he had a call with people from a protocol called Sherlock who set up a public audit service. So he says, had a call with them. Here are the notes off the top of my head. He says they can be ready to go in 1 week after we agree and put down the deposit and pay them, and they'll run the contest with senior security person and long tail of competitors for 4 days after that. Then we'll have the process of dealing with any issues a few more days. 1 day before it starts, we'd like to have our code base frozen. So I think that's the next big step that needs to happen. It says they can also run a bug bounty after the audit, but we can pay per month to get insurance for payouts on that bug bounty. It's quite hefty though, and be hard to fit into this budget. We'd only be able to do 1 to 2 months max, I reckon, maybe less. And then Ramana goes on to say more generally regarding the audits, there's some things we need to do to sort our shit out first. And he says everyone is going to want a code freeze, and we should do as much as we can to find issues pre-audit. That means at minimum these are finalizing the design. We'll have to call an end to community feedback at some point and declare the design done. Finish our test suite and make sure it has full coverage. Finish our README, fill in the gaps, make it as useful as possible for understanding the protocol. And then Stretch saying this will delay things. He says finish the front end and run an actual beta test with live users on testnet. And then he goes on to say, in addition, probably run a bunch of checklists and community audit and guideline following stuff to try to find issues beforehand. And then Ramana says, I can find myself having trouble making the hard calls on some of these decisions, so we'll definitely welcome input from Matt, who's kind of working as a project manager on this, and anyone else in the thread. So if you're Langers or Kane listening to this, please get involved. We'd really love to have your expertise, working with auditors, working with Solidity, writing, even though this is written in Viper, I believe. But, any help would be appreciated, like getting the test suite stuff done, getting a code freeze or what needs to be done into code freeze. If there's anyone else listening here who has experience with these things, we would love to get your input as well, because I think that this is going to be a really, really great project, but it's a community project, right? Like Raman is a member of the community. The GMC is, part of the PDAO where we are community driven, and this is our project, right? And we need to make it as good as possible. And if anyone who is listening to this can help, please do help, because we're going to need all the help we can get to get this going. And I personally think Rocket Lend is going to be really, really wonderful for our node operators who are underwater on their RPL, and I think it's going to be really good. So here Ramana has some more information. He says pricing wise, the recommendation was something like 40k for the audit, and the bug bounty coverage would be something like 5k a month for 100k bounty. He says we would already be out of budget if we did the audit and bug bounty for 2 months, so maybe we only do the bug bounty at a lower payout level, or go to the lower price point of like 30k for the audit, less reservation of senior security person time. And then Ramana goes on to say, may it help for actually publicize a date when we're going to end community input and use that to try to encourage more community input to actually happen. And Epinef says, that's awesome to get numbers. Are you counting on other firms? And then Matt replied by saying, do we talk to Code for Arena, who are also, or Code Arena, sorry, who are also public audit firm, and they have 3 modes to quote for. And then Ramana here was talking about getting the design of it and all that kind of stuff. So if you he says they also have an existing Sigma Prime quote for reference, and maybe an indication from Open Zeppelin, and Open Zeppelin were asking for $96,000, and that's kind of in line with Sigma Prime. Code for Arena has just gotten back to me, and it's very close to Sherlock, so they're offering the lower price, but it's not quite as extensive in the terms of the work that they'll do. So I said, Code for Arena, from what I understand, has the best reputation in public audit space, and Ramana says we have a quote from them too, and it's quite similar, although I think a slightly worse offering. So guys, if you're listening to this, I know a whole bunch of people have been mobilized by me making these kind of statements. So even if we get a couple of people, reach out to me, reach out to Ramana, visit the Rocket Lend thread. Please get involved with this, because I really do think it's going to help Rocket Pool, and of course, if it helps Rocket Pool, then hopefully it might help RPL, and we can all do with that happening. So do it for your bags, guys. Do it for your bags, if nothing else. Okay, let's have a look at what we have here. So we got an update from Owl, and this is the cool Owl. He says this is Owl of Moistness, who you might know is has been around the community for a while, but not that much anymore, but is also working in the Ronin bridge space. That's where the Axie Infinity game was, and he has been working on an update to their system to allow their ETH bridged to be staked. So here he says, after my call last week, we, and that's SM, Ronin Validator, and myself, have agreed the choice of third-party party, and I'm happy to announce that we can finally advance to the testing phase. So over the course of the next few months, we'll push things over on Saigon and Haleshki testnet. Must be Haleshki for validation of ETH validation, but it shouldn't be an issue. And it says testing will take some major time to be done correctly before going to auditing, so this will most likely be the longest phase. And he says that for their third-party stack, this is what they're doing. So they are going to go with Stakewise, so a primary staker of their ETH, which is with 80% of their stake. They're going to go with Rocket Pool, which is a secondary buffer, 20% of stake, and then they're going to do hybrid validating setup with NodeSet and willing Ronin validators. So Al says that he's super excited as he can finally go back down into the trenches and write the cross-chain software and set up the testnet stuff and finally get to doing unit testing and all that. So this is a really, really cool announcement from Al, and like, I think it's a really, really exciting project. Now, I'll have to admit that, I'm personally a little bit disappointed that they're only going to be staking around 20% with Rocket Pool. I would have loved to have seen the numbers between Stakewise and Rocket Pool be flipped, but we have to admit that right now, we don't have capacity for stake. Like, our ETH is blocking up the deposit pool. We don't have the ability to put new validators online to get the deposit queue down, and that's disappointing, frankly. But hopefully by the time this goes live, Rocket Pool might be in a position where we can actually absorb more of that, and it might prompt them to change some of their numbers around. I really hope that's the case, but regardless, this is really cool that this is happening. I think that it might end up being that other bridges, layer 2s, side chains and stuff might end up doing something similar to this after seeing how well it works for Ronin. Like, a lot of these projects have ETH just sat on those bridges and it's doing nothing, right? And they could technically be making like millions of dollars a year by having those tokens be staked. Now, if this works well for Ronin and they make some good money from this, the goal that we have would be to get them to other people doing the same thing, and hopefully more of them will be choosing Rocket Pool to do it. So great update, Al. Thank you. Okay, I got a little shout out from, I want to give a shout out to the GMC. So the GMC's grant round 15 is live, and it's actually closing on August 7th, which is tomorrow. So please keep that in mind, that the grants round is about to close. Now, the reason why we're mentioning this is because this month there has only been one submission for a retrospective application that was from Ramana, but other than that we have had 0 grant applications, we've had 0 bounty applications, so there's been nothing to discuss. Now Ramana wants to he's asking for some money for the voting stuff that he did, like making the voting text, Rocket voting and Rocket delegate documents, and he's asking for $1,000, but he's open to negotiation. But I can't really comment on that because I'm obviously a GMC member and I'll need to vote on that. But there's been a bounty application posted, and this has been posted by, I think it's Epinef, because he was mentioning that he was going to do one. There you go, Epinef. Yeah, so Rocket Pool support payments September to November 2024. So that is what he's posted. So we've got two applications now. So if you are waiting to submit, you've got basically just over a day to do it from when I'm releasing this. Make sure that you release it quickly, otherwise the GMC are going to actually have a really easy month this month. Actually, that's not true because we've got a whole lot of stuff that we're doing with the tokenomics stuff, but in terms of the actual grant stuff, it's going to be a really easy month for us, so it's pretty cool. Okay, we're going to be talking about some other news now, and we're going to go straight to Ethereum news today. So yesterday, the markets were horrible. ETH price was down 20+%, and it was looking really, really bad. But at the end of the day, actually, it was kind of amazing because the Eth ETF had $49 million of inflows, which was absolutely amazing considering that everything was going hell pretty much. The BTC ETFs had outflows of 168 million. Now, I'm absolutely sure that some of that BTC ETF money is going to the ETH ETFs, but I think one of the things that's really interesting here is that people are still buying ETH, and that's exciting to see. Here we have the farside.co.uk website, and these guys are showing the flows of Ethereum into the ETFs, money, US dollars into the Ethereum ETFs, and you can see that the first few days were kind of brutal. Like the first day, number one was $106 million into it, but then we had 4 red days in a row, which was quite brutal. But since then, it's kind of stabilized, and it looks like we're trending more positive. Overall, we've had outflows from all the ETFs, and that, of course, you have to remember that this is including Grayscale ETF, which people are trying to get out of. So overall, so far, we've had $462 million of net outflows, but I think maybe if we start getting a few more positive weeks, it might be that within the next few weeks we'll be positive, and after that the sky's the limit. So that would be really amazing to see. Okay, we've got Eth Investors Club here with their second issue of their magazine, and now I haven't had a chance to look through this yet, but they're talking about the ETFs here, Ethereum's IPO moment with Bitwise. So of course Bitwise are really getting ahead of all this stuff, which is really cool. But it tells you who the contributors are to this issue, and it also tells you what's in here. But this is actually like a really beautiful magazine. It looks amazing. So if you want to read it, then definitely go and give it a read. I think there's some really good stuff in here. Like their first issue was very well received, and just like flicking through the second one, it looks really good as well. So congratulations to the Eth Investors Club, EIC, on the issue 2, and I'm definitely going to be perusing this over the next few days and weeks. I think there's a lot to have a look at in here, so I'm excited to read it. But yeah, definitely go and give that a read if you're interested. Okay, we're going to finish today's episode with some other news, and this other news is in the form of market performance from in crypto and what it's looking like. So the year-to-date numbers, right, are actually let's start with from the bottom. So on Sunday night everything crashed really badly. So here Ceteris, I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry about if I'm mispronouncing that, but they are saying that crypto has bounced back strongly from the lows. So for the benchmark figures here, we have BTC, ETH, and Sol. So BTC has bounced from the low 13%, ETH 15%, and Sol has bounced 31%, which is a very strong bounce. With other layer ones, it looks like they're in that teens-ish area into like the 20s. So we have AVAX 20%, NEAR 16%, Aptos 17%, Atom 16%, SUI 27%, Injective, Mina, Say, and Phantom all around 15 to 18%. With the modular stuff, things have bounced back on the average of 20%. With the meme coins, they bounced back on the average of 25%. With ETH DeFi, they bounced back an average of 25% as well. The one that's closest to Rocket Pool here is the Lido token, that's bounced back 26%. With Sol DeFi, they bounced back about 25%. With Cosmos, they bounced back about 15%. And with the AI and Deepin, that's bounced back very strongly at around 30%. So that is really interesting. The one that I was looking at here earlier was this year-to-date chart, which shows that BTC is up 32%, 33% for the year, ETH 10% for the year, and Sol 42% for the year. So those are benchmark figures. But overall, from January 1st to today, they are. Well, yes, yeah, today actually, yeah. So the average layer ones, they're down 15%. Modular chains are down, and these like layer 2s and side chains and stuff, they are down 60% pretty much. Meme coins are up 265%. ETH DeFi is down 20% year to date. The Sol DeFi is up around 15%. Cosmos has been hit really hard, and that Cosmos ecosystem is down 67% on average, and then AI and Deepin is down 1.5%. So the markets are doing what the market does, and because we're so close to Rocket Pool and RPL, we just see that performance and think, wow, this is horrible and everything's really bad. But when you look at it in the greater context of things, it's still bad. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, it's still been bad, but it kind of gives you a bigger picture that, there's other tokens that are performing quite badly as well. Now, that is not, of course, to say that they're all going to recover and they're all going to boom. Nobody knows the future, but hopefully, RPL does recover and strongly. But on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. So thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I hope you're all feeling a little better today compared to yesterday, after the markets have, kind of recovered a little bit, and hopefully that recovery keeps going. But yeah, I'll see you all tomorrow.